Welcome to Thrive, the podcast. It's through relationships that we receive the most powerful mirror of our relationship to ourselves and life. So if you're experiencing disconnection, conflict, discord, or oscillation in your relationships and are ready to address this now so that you can go on to thrive, join me in my 6-week live immersion, Thrive in Relationships. I am delighted to share this episode. My guest, Gisele Gambi, has for the last 10 years consistently turned near $500,000 every year without email lists, in-person networking, sales funnels, sales tactics, or advertising. We touch on how she created this and also overcame domestic violence to create a life that is abundant in love and money today. So Gisele, welcome. Welcome to Thrive, the podcast. It's beautiful to have you here. You came to my attention back in 2011, and I remember messaging you at the time. And at that point, I felt this really strong desire to work with you. And I left it for a number of years. And then I reached out to you again in 2019, started working with you as my coach, and experienced a lot of beauty and gentleness and breakthroughs. And I love how you've created your business, because of all the people in this, if you want to call it industry, I don't really like that term. There are very few coaches who've been able to create what you've created. And what you've created is a really consistent, stable flow of service to your audience and to your clients, yet without any of the paraphernalia that most people rely on to build a business, right? So you created a business with a pretty much close to $500,000 turnover every year consistently for 10 years, without email lists, marketing funnels, in-person networking. Pretty amazing. And without running yourself ragged on 5 days a week with clients. Actually, you've had a lot of space and you've created a business where you're coming from a place of replenishment. So I don't think I'm alone in feeling the awe and also the enjoyment of that. Because when we are in a full space as coaches and facilitators, we have so much more to give than people who are working kind of from a model of all the things they have to do in order to serve. So I'd love to hear about your journey on getting to this point in your business, because you're about to go up a whole new level in your business. And also to hear about some of the challenges that you needed to overcome in life to even claim this life that you've created.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. First of all, I just love being with you anyway. So, it's a 2-for-1 offer here. I get to be with you and we get to do a podcast episode together. So thank you. So that's true what you said. And it wasn't always like that. So let me share the honest, full picture.
Sure.
And if you want to ask any detailed questions, go for it. So I won't share yet, unless you want me to. I won't share yet how I came into coaching, but I'll start with when I started coaching. I actually started facilitating workshops. That's where it started in 2004. So that's 19 years ago, right? 19 years ago. So from 2004 to 2011, I ran a business called Dare to Be Remarkable with my best male friend. And it was a really rich time of so much learning, so much learning and deepening and deepening and deepening. And then in 2011, David and I, we were the David and Gisele show. And, you know, we were attached at the hips, and we realized that it was time to know who we each were in our own independence. So we completed that business, you know, from a place of love and joy, no conflict like a lot of business partnerships end. And then I had my daughter, and then I lost my confidence between 2011 and kind of 3/4 of the way through 2013. And the reason why I lost my confidence was because David was the salesperson in our business. He was the one who would bring the people in, and we go and have coffee chats. There was a lot of coffee chats, I tell you what. Not very efficient, but that's how people came in. Now, without David, I felt lost. And so I made some silly decisions, not in the longer term, but in that moment where I went and partnered with other coaches who I felt had what I didn't have. And that is never going to work. That is never going to work, right? So for those years, 2011 to about 3/4 2013, I handed all my power to them. And I was the most experienced person, which is kind of ironic. Handed all my power away to them. And in doing that, we started engaging with the marketers.
So paying lots of money.
Paying lots of money. I think we paid $25,000, and we didn't have any money. Like, we were not bringing business in. We paid this marketer $25,000. And I'm just going to be very brief about this. The summary is that the marketer, I'll speak about me, said that who I was showing up as would not be acceptable. And so I would have to change my languaging to more appropriate languaging, right?
Yeah. So ignore your inner voice, right? Ignore your inner voice.
Yeah.
And present something palatable. Who set the standard on that? You know, this is such a big thing that we see today. I've had it a lot myself with people.
Right. And then follow the process that they tell you to take. So it was all very mechanical. It was all very transactional. And ironically, I was the one that was doing the selling. That was the irony of it all, right? So there I am sitting in front of these corporate people, and my body was not happy. And it was a very, very hard 2013. So no money coming in other than the few clients that I had just that wanted me, and putting myself in situation after situation, turning myself inside out, being totally inauthentic with the words that I was using in the process that I was using that they told us to use, to the point that I just started having massive anxiety, panic attacks. I had a panic attack whilst I was facilitating 15 CEOs of small businesses. And then that was the last straw. I thought, I can't do this anymore. Obviously, my body is telling me that I'm not in alignment.
So that's really interesting, isn't it? Our body intelligence versus our intellect of the mind. Two things totally different. Yeah.
Totally different.
So often we override the intelligence of the body because we're so attached to the beliefs and the conditioning that we've had about being there is a right way, or wanting to be perfect, or, you know, so much. So what was the transition for you? What was the moment of going, right, this isn't right, I don't know the way to do it? So there was a piece there.
It was when I had the panic attack in front of these 15 people, and then I left. I knew I had to leave, so I left, and that caused a lot of conflict. So that was a partnership that I ended with lots of conflict. And then I got really dark for a few months. I got really helpless. I felt hopeless. I didn't know what to do. I had dark thoughts. And then I read a book there are a few things. I read a book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap.
Oh,
And I'd never heard about zones of genius before. So he talks about zones of competence, zones of excellence, zones of genius.
mm-hmm.
I was thinking, okay, yeah, my zone of excellence was when I used to work in HR. I was really good at it, you know?
Yeah.
My zone of genius is when I'm in my intuition.
Yeah.
Then a light kind of turned on.
Mm.
And then I had another moment, and it was, I was vacuum cleaning.
Okay.
As I was vacuum cleaning, I had this epiphany, and it was, well, when I'm coaching, I'm completely connected to my feeling body. I'm completely connected to my intuition, to my inner knowing. And that's why it works. Well, what if the sales conversation was just that? What? Yeah.
So my question is, how did you first get in contact with your intuition? Because I know it's always with us, but we're not always listening. So what were the connection points for you to really, really begin to allow your intuition to be the authority in your life?
Well, it was the moment that had me leave my HR job and come into this. So I was in a program. I was in a big personal development program. It was an 8-month program. And we were doing a stream of consciousness writing. So we were practicing, connecting and being in our intuition. And to be honest with you, I had always been intuitive, but I just hadn't labeled as that. So when I did this program, I really, really connected with it. So I was doing a stream of consciousness writing, and I had a baby who died when he was 11 days old. And he came to me in this stream of consciousness writing, and he said, "You're here to ignite people's spirits and hearts. 11 days was all I needed. And now I do the same to you." And that was the moment that I knew that I needed to leave my HR job, because if I didn't, those words would dissolve.
You were at the top of that career, right? When you
Oh
decided.
my God, I was being groomed for the regional role, Pacific role.
So
You know?
you're in the most comfortable position. You've been there a long time. You know everybody.
Yes.
You're super connected,
Yeah.
and you decide that you're going to leave it all. That's huge, because
It
you didn't know
was.
what you were leaving for, did you? You didn't know what was coming.
Nope.
You knew that it was true.
And I remember feeling stupid because people would ask me, "What are you going to do?" And I couldn't explain it. And I remember the general manager took me for lunch on my last day, and I felt so stupid because I couldn't explain. So 6 months of tuning in, meditating, writing. And then I got it. I got the first version of what I was to do.
Mm.
And that's continued to grow. Yeah.
I'd like to go back to that point where you said, I was always intuitive, but I never called it that. This is the thing about intuition. Often we push it aside, right? We're told in our upbringing so often to ignore, just ignore that, because there's a way you need to be. There's a way you've got to live. There's a long list of criteria. And what was life like for you growing up? And how, when was your first sort of whisper of your own inner guidance?
I remember it like the moment, like as if it's still here with me. I feel like I could live it. I'm living it as I'm speaking to you. I think I must have been like about 8 years old, something like that. It was young. And I remember lying in bed. I remember where my bed was. And I asked myself the question, why am I in this body?
Mm-hmm.
So I had this moment of like recognizing that I'm not this body. Like this is the vehicle, that who I really am is formless. And I was not taught that, right? Like I grew up as a Catholic, but I wasn't taught that even as a Catholic.
Okay.
And yeah, I had that moment of like, why am I in this body? Like, why did that soul choose this body, this life? Why? That was kind of the first, not intuitive moment, but connective moment. And then I remember at high school, I just knew things about people.
Really?
I could feel them.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like I was kind of, the agony aunt. There's like the person that people would come to and tell them all their problems. I was that.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was part of a group of girls, but I had a lot of the other girls would come and tell me stuff. And because I would, I can't explain it. I just knew stuff. But I would never have called it intuitive. Never, never, never.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. So you begin, you're if we go back to David and leaving David, realizing, that you can't go against your body intelligence anymore. And then you really start listening. You really start realizing what you're here for.
Well, are you referring to when, like, 2011 to the 2013 moment? Well, actually, what I started listening to was I started listening to my anger.
Huh.
I started getting really not angry at people, right? It was not outward. It was an internal experience. I started getting really, really angry for a few months. And it was really powerful because I started to see who I was being over those couple of years.
Yeah.
So powerless, so giving my power away, so not trusting myself, so not valuing myself. And that made me really, really, really angry. And it was necessary. I needed to go through that. And it lasted for a couple of months.
How was that for your husband and family at the time?
I don't think I shared the anger with anyone, to be honest with you. I don't think I did. Obviously, my husband knew that I was feeling hopeless and helpless, and I didn't know where I was going to go.
But he didn't rescue you, did he? He let you hang on.
Yeah, no, he didn't rescue me. No. He's always given me the space, actually. Even now, like, with my work, he gives me so much space to do my work. So he was just working to do what needed to be done to be able to, we were in so much debt, to be able to pay what we could. Being an electrician, like, it's not like as if you've got, and he's not an entrepreneur, so it's not like as if you've got this massive income coming in. And so that I'm really appreciative of that. He was kind of like holding the fort as much as he could, and just allowing my process to, not that he would be even conscious of this. I don't think he would ever have thought, I'm going to allow her to have her process, he wouldn't be blind. Yeah. But there was a moment where I really had that breakthrough shift in perception that changes everything. So I've done all the anger, felt all the anger, still don't know what I'm doing. And I'm not doing anything, like I'm not coaching or anything like that. And I was going, this story, but I was going for a run, and then I got the message, stop and meditate. So I was listening. When I was running, I was listening, because actually running for me is an active presence. It allows me to lock off my rational brain and I go places. So I sat down on this bench by the ocean and I closed my eyes, and then all of a sudden I saw the sacred purpose of those last few years. And the sacred purpose of those last few years was like, oh my God, I have just done what a lot of people who love what they do, but are doing it in a way that they can't make it profitable. And they're doing all the things that I thought that I needed to do. And they're still doing it, but I know that it doesn't work. And then I had this epiphany, and it was, oh my God, I'm not here for everybody. I thought I was here for everyone. And it was like, I'm for those people. I can help those people because I can tell them that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. And I was crying. Oh, I had my sunglasses. I was crying. I was like, I was in this place of zero judgment anymore. I was in this place of such reverence for the orchestration of all of that. You know, like I couldn't have created that myself. Like it just felt like, you know, the universal hand orchestrated all of that for me to have this moment now. And I was in so much gratitude, and I went home and I just started to write because I've always loved writing. And then what came out, because it's literally just touch typing with my eyes closed, just whatever was coming. And then I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, that's actually a really good piece of writing. And I'd always written on Facebook, and I thought, I'm going to share that. And then I thought, hang on a second, I'm going to attach an offering to that. And I remember the moment, I remember where I was sitting, and because I had cared up until that point, I'd cared so much about what people thought of me. And that relates to my upbringing as well, you know, to be the good girl and, you know, follow the rules. And I was in this moment of like, I don't care less what other people think of me. I don't give a And so I attached this 6-month offering to work with me. And at that time, I put my big girl pants on, and I thought, well, I'm just going to charge $10,000 for that. And people might think I'm crazy, but I don't care. And I put it on Facebook, and that night 2 people messaged me through Messenger. And I just connected with my intuition. I felt what was going on for them. I shared through Messenger what was going on for them, and they signed up through Messenger, not even a conversation.
So
Crazy.
this, the full acceptance of your body intelligence, your intuition, your accurate seeing, and since then it's just been almost like a snowball in a way, in momentum, in referrals, in people just hearing you. I mean, I'm in London, you're in Sydney, and I heard you, you know, through the energetic resonance, really is the only way I can describe it. More powerful than any marketing on earth. So were there any moments along that journey where, you know, you were tempted by, oh, you know, everybody, because this is the thing, right? We live in a space where it's so loud. You've got to be doing email marketing, and you've got to be growing your list, and you got to be, you know, it's like a bombardment. And I know this for myself, that when I've allowed myself to get caught up in that, it just takes me off piste. It takes me away from what I'm here to give to anybody. And it gives me a whole other job to do. And I remember in 2008, I read a book, which I usually recommend to people, small business owners who are in the thick of it, called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Because when I read that book, I saw that I was doing 11 roles in my business at that time. 11 roles, one person, 11 roles to run this business, which was completely different at the time. It was corporate well-being. That's a whole other thing. But that's what it can be like, right? Even in this, even in being in the coaching arena, where you just take on all these tasks and end up either doing it or outsourcing it to someone who doesn't even understand your business. So were there points in this where you thought, I should do this, I should?
Yes, definitely. So again, you know, the honest picture is, yes, I have, you know, the numbers that you talked about before, I have consistently earned for the 10 years. However, I have had contractions along the 10 years, right? Where the cash flow wasn't as abundant as it was previously. I've had that just recently. And I know that I have these contractions because it's not because I'm necessarily doing anything wrong, although there is cleaning up to do at times, and I've just done a whole lot of cleaning up myself. It's because there's more to be discovered, right? And so those contractions get our attention. And so not recently, I can't say that I've been tempted by the shiny lights recently, but I certainly was tempted by the shiny lights along the way. And I'd see something on Facebook and, and it's all, wow, the story that they're telling, it's so wow. And there were so many times that I went and checked them out. So many times. I remember having a discovery call with somebody, but because I had that 2011 to 2013 experience, like my antenna's on.
Mm-hmm.
It's really on. And if it doesn't feel right for me, I know it. So I might go and explore it, or I haven't been exploring lately, the ones that are shiny light type of things. But when I did, yeah, my antenna would be on, and I remember one time actually saying no to the guy. I said, we're not right for each other. And he kept on going and going. I was like, we're so not right for each other.
Oh.
But I did buy a program, and it was an expensive program. And it was at a time when it was contracted. I think it was 2017. And what they were selling was to make this really, the expression was a visual viral masterpiece, a video that's a visual viral masterpiece. And it didn't work because I was putting the power in the masterpiece, thinking
Yeah, so that's the important element here, isn't it? It's that, these are tools, email marketing and all of this are tools, but if we're not in alignment because we're disconnected, it doesn't matter if we use those tools or not. It's just not going to happen. So, what's the key to holding that inner alignment? Because that's what you give the most focus to in your business, isn't it?
Yes. So the difference between me and a lot of other coaches, you and I are similar, but a lot of coaches out there is we don't go strategy first. Whereas the other coaches, I'm actually working with a new coach for myself now. She is strategy first, but I've got the awareness that no, it's an energetic alignment first. So I do my work on me to come into alignment with who I am before any strategy is adopted. Before any, So
let's go there for a moment, because there was a time in your life where, you were actually adopted, and then you were at one point in an abusive marriage before you married your husband that you're married to now. And that's a very different Gisele, isn't it? So, and this alignment that we're talking about is the piece that has enabled you not only to grow a successful coaching business, but to also transition yourself from that type of life, from being, in a position where your heart was massively compromised.
Yes.
And the reason I bring this up is because, there will be women listening to this who've been in that position, who have gifts, who maybe not able to acknowledge those gifts in their current situation. So I like to hear that story, because that still speaks to the alignment that you hold today.
Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge your intuition right now, because I feel like you've just tapped into who needs to hear this. Yeah, so really acknowledging your intuition. So yes, I was adopted, and I was the good girl. I had to be the good girl. My parents are beautiful. My dad's not alive anymore, but they're very beautiful. But I had to be the good girl, and so I didn't have any freedom. My parents are European, so the freedom that they thought they were giving me was much greater than the freedom that they had. But relative to what happens in Australia, I was not free. So I got married when I was 20.
Wow.
As a way of becoming free. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that. I mean, I was such a baby. So that lasted for 5 years, and I knew I knew on the honeymoon he was not the right person for me. And I remember having this moment, and it was the first moment of nobody teaching me about personal responsibility. I didn't learn this from anybody, but I remember having this moment. I was catching the bus to go to work, and I had this moment of, wow, nobody Nobody else can be responsible for my happiness but me.
Oh.
Yeah, right. Nobody else can be responsible for that but me. And I got off the bus and I got on a bus to go home. And I went to see my parents to say I'm going to leave him. That's enough of that story. There's more to it. That's enough of that. Then I was single for a few years, and then I met another man, and he was the exact opposite of husband number one. You know, he was really emotional and he wanted to know about all of my emotions, whereas the other one was very like cold and controlling and not wanting to, not introverted, but not wanting to keep me all to himself. This guy was social, and anyway. So I ended up marrying him, and we were together for a few years. And yes, he was emotionally abusive and he was physically abusive. And he was both of that even before I married him, and I still married him. And yeah, I remember one time we were going out at night after work, and he'd have these episodes. And I remember him pulling my hair along, you know, as I'm in the city, and somebody actually took me away from him and put me in a car. It was awful. And I still married him. So
talk to that, because this is very common, and
yeah.
I've been in this position similar myself.
Yeah.
We know something isn't true or right, but we still do it. What is that now?
He was really unwell, right? He was really unwell emotionally. I didn't know this, like I wasn't aware of this, but now I am aware of it. I was trying to rescue him. I was trying to rescue him.
What did you believe that would give you to rescue him?
Well, obviously it would make me feel, you know, valuable.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think I had this conscious thought though, Lizzie.
Yeah, for sure.
This conscious thought. I thought I could, yeah, I thought it would allow me to feel valuable.
Yeah.
And then the other part to it is, because it was so abusive, I couldn't tell anybody about it.
Did you feel shame or embarrassment?
I definitely felt shame because I'd already been divorced once. And again, my family being European, how could I have a second failed marriage? I just couldn't. In my perception.
Yeah.
So I kept, I got married, and it got worse, and he started being unfaithful. And then he, it was terrible. He was in sales, and he won, the sales employee of the year or whatever it was. And he was given a reward, I should say. So we went to Fiji, and I was 7 months pregnant with a child that we knew was very sick and probably not going to live. And when we came home, we got to the airport, Sydney airport, and he said to me, "We need to go to the departure lounge." I'm thinking, what, we need to go to the departure lounge? Why? I need to sit down and talk to you. And I'm starting to panic. Mm-hmm. And he said, when you were sick that day, because I was unwell, he goes, I went into Nandi and I went with a prostitute.
Oh my God. Wow, you were feeling that.
Oh my God. And we went home. His parents had come from overseas, and I had to I didn't have to. I chose to put the happy face on, like nothing was wrong. Nobody knew anything. Then we had Joshua. Joshua died when he was 11 days old. And then I fell pregnant again. And then I was 3 months pregnant. He worked a lot away, and he came home and he said, "I've got something to tell you." I knew what he was going to tell me, and did the same thing. He went with another prostitute.
So he was this to basically abuse you in a way.
Yeah. And I lost the baby that night. I had a miscarriage. So my mum and dad were in Switzerland, and I called them. I said, "I've had a miscarriage. I'm coming." And I went over there, and again, I'm not going to give you all the detail other than to say it just came out of me. And I said, "This is what's happened." And Mum said to me, "I can't tell you what to do, but if I was you, I would leave." And that was what I needed to hear. And then I came home to him, and then he locked me in the bedroom and pulled a knife on me and told me he was going to kill me. He was going to kill our dogs. And luckily we had a policeman living in the a granny flat, and I somehow was able to leave, and yeah, they looked after me. Yeah. So it was only when I did my big personal awareness work that I realized that I had so much unworthiness driving the show, and so much unlovability driving the show.
Yeah, so this is the self-responsibility part, isn't it? Because it can be so easy for us to be in a position of blaming the man the whole way through. And sure, that behavior is not okay in anyone's book. But the point of power is where we can own it, that we within ourselves have held a point of and it's almost like an anchor of belief, and then everything comes in to show us what position we're holding, including everything that's going on around us. But this, we often don't see it, because here was the interesting part. You were in a super successful career at the time. Your private life was in status. So we sometimes don't see it because we have the position in our perception that we're very successful. Yeah, we're doing really well, or whatever it is. But there's this way that life is showing us something about ourselves and our relationship to ourselves that on a very deep level is being revealed.
Yeah.
In you realizing the depth of the unworthiness, you saw that you were holding that inside of you, and it wasn't all on this man that you had married.
Right. I wasn't in blame of him at all. Not at all.
Yeah. And
not at all.
It's an accelerator. When we can do this, it accelerates us into our power and our purpose.
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be in the joy that I am daily because of the work that I'm doing, had it not been for him showing up the way that he did. You know, I was soul contracted with him. His soul loved my soul that much that he would turn up in and forget himself so much that he would behave like that with me. Right? He had to play that role so that I could remember who I am. He had to. So I have no hate. I don't like what he did, but I have zero charge. And I remember Mum, because we had 2 dogs. So after we completed, you know, we shared these dogs. So we still had a relationship. And my mum would say to me, how can you be in relationship with him? And it was a friendly relationship. How can you do that? And I said, because if I'm in, you know, what you're in, I'm out of the relationship, but I'm actually still in it.
Yeah. Not owning our part is what it comes down to. I've seen this in my own relationship with my family of origin, and you know, it's like owning my part in creating and being born in this, and you know, all of that has given me so much peace, because it's like we're the creators. Now, when I first heard that, I remember being on a call with someone years ago. He said to me, you're responsible 100% for everything that's going on in your life. And when he said that to me, I felt so much rage and anger. I went tomato red. So angry. But that's the point of freedom, that often, you know, is a complete catalyst, isn't it? That point of freedom where we realize, oh gosh, if I can create this, then I could create anything. So what would I love to create? Like, what's the desire? And so often we keep ourselves away from desire because we're so afraid and terrified of being disappointed. And you speak to this about, you know, the joy thing. Like, can I receive all the joy? You know, it's like, and so yeah, it's amazing when we can realize this for ourselves, the agency that we have and the power we have to choose. And yet it doesn't always feel like that at all.
I mentioned before that there's been a lot of cleaning up this year. So, you know, I cleaned up so much in 2020, in 2002, when I learned that I create my reality and that I was creating from unworthiness and lovability. And I remember that moment where I thought, wow, my life is a perfect match for those beliefs. Like, how incredible is that? Like, wow, I'm a master creator, you know, like you couldn't get a better reality that matches those beliefs, right? And it was, as you said, it was a real moment of freedom that if I created that, well, and I now create from a place of self-love, I can create anything, right? It was such a moment of freedom. And then 16 months ago, I went to a retreat, and I won't talk to the content of what I hid into. But I went to a retreat, and I was pulled to go. So beautiful woman, Penny Patterson, who was actually coaching at the time, said, I'm going to be doing this retreat. And I said, oh, I'm coming. I mean, she didn't invite me. Thank God she said yes. But I didn't know what I was coming for, right? It was that intuition that the intuitive pull. And what I hid into, I had no idea that I was going to hit into. Like, it was so in the shadows. It was so in the shadows. It was extremely painful. I felt out of control when I was in the feeling of it. I felt I was absolutely, you know, in panic. It was awful. It was vile, and it had to come out. It had to. And I returned all of that back to love, right? Not in that moment. It, you know, through a little bit of time, I returned it all back to love. But what that moment did was it catalyzed a sequence of uncovering of what still lay in the shadows that I had not yet acknowledged. So then, you know, then I hit into December, and another event happened, and I uncovered something really amazing, actually, now that I'm remembering. So powerlessness was playing out, not in my work, in my personal life. And the way that it played out in December really hurt. It really hurt. And then I had this moment of awareness that when I was growing up, so I've got two older brothers who are mum and dad's biological children. And my memory, or my perception, right, of my upbringing was that it was for them to be powerful. Not for me. Like, for me, it was about being nice, you know, and loving, but not powerful. And so I had this moment of like, wow, I never was actually taught to be powerful. And when I think about how I raised my daughter, like, I'm always encouraging. I mean, I don't need to, she already is that, but right, there was never any of that. And then I remember saying this to my coach, Daniel, because it was such an epiphany for me. I was like, wow, that's one of the reasons why this powerlessness, because I was never taught. He said something that, you know, I don't think I'll ever forget. He said, you didn't need to be taught to be powerful, because your power comes direct from source. I was like, oh, it's so emotional. It's so emotional. So that was awesome. And
you speak to a point that I feel is so important, because, so, you know, it's like when we each have that, right? That's for all of us.
It is.
And there's a reclaiming to be done in so many ways.
Yes. And reclaiming is a great word. That's, I actually haven't used that word, but I have been reclaiming my power, deeper levels of powerfulness. And I've been reclaiming deeper levels of deservedness as well. Through this, you know, consistent unveiling of what's been in the shadows. It's been really full on last 16 months. really full on.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's complete now for now, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've got everything that I need for now until
Yeah.
the next time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has brought in the arrival of something you've called the intuitive entrepreneur.
Yes. So I started working with a new coach that I was pulled to coach, and she's a strategy person. And the reason why I started working with her was, the last 10 years have been so amazing in that all the people who have come either through my writing, either through the podcast, and referral. And there's been a beautiful community that's been created over the past 10 years. And a lot of those people in that community, come back for more, right? So they'll do a year or whatever, and then they'll go and integrate, and then they'll come back for more. And it's beautiful. So I haven't had to do anything else other than what I've been doing, right, for that to happen. But I had this other epiphany, or not epiphany, and this other awareness a couple of months ago, and it was, wow, other than the people that I currently coach and the people who I have coached, nobody really knows. Nobody else really knows what I do. And I've never been able to articulate it, right? And I happened to listen to a podcast. Actually, you put me onto her, Susie Ashworth, and she was interviewing this other lady, Jazz, and I loved what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I was called to explore her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I chose to coach with her was I really want to be able to say what I do. I really want to be able to do that. But I didn't know for what purpose until now, right? The unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that she said to me was, as I said, she works completely with strategy. She said, wow, it's really amazing that you've built what you've built organically and through your intuition, which is nice when you hear that from somebody, because you go, yeah, actually, it is really good, isn't it? Like, I hadn't actually appreciated it really until she said that, which is silly, but I hadn't. And then how did this happen? It happened, I was walking one morning, and I felt like this breakthrough wanted to bust out of my chest. And so I took myself somewhere that I love to be. And I won't go through all the breakthroughs, but they're really powerful. And the words, the intuitive entrepreneur, arrived. And I was like, oh, that's who I've been over the last 10 years. And I loved the words. So I messaged this new coach and I said, these words just arrived. And she goes, have you thought of getting the domain name? I would never think of that, right? That's just not where I go. So I did. I got the domain, but I didn't know what in service to.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
But I got it. Just say it's just there. And then last week, I attended one of her group calls where she had one of her peers come and speak to us. And up until that night, I'd always kind of resisted big group programs. Was I questioned not having one-on-one work. I questioned the depth of the work, and I questioned the results. So I've always, and also because I've seen so many shiny lights, right, that don't have integrity. So I've kind of stayed away. But this lady, she's a doctor, and quickly her story is that she got out of the hustle and churn of hospital system, and then went on a journey.
Reclaiming again.
Exactly, reclaiming again. And she has certified thousands of practitioners in Ayurvedic medicine. And what I was witnessing in her was, wow, she doesn't treat those thousands of people as a number. Like, she really cares about these people. Like, I could really feel her genuine care. I felt the purity of her intention. And then a light went off for me. I was like, wow, what's my version of that? Right? It's almost like she activated and allowed me to reclaim as well. Right? And then being present with it, it was, oh, that's in service to the intuitive entrepreneur. I can now teach people what I've done over the last 10 years, who I've been over the last 10 years, so that they can create in their own way, you know, at the level that I've created it. So that'll be next year.
Yeah, beautiful. It's really, what's the word? Well, the reason I love it, right, is because for a while now, I've been seeing that, you know, so far in our society, we've had systems that we have opted into, often out of unconscious powerlessness and capacity, like we don't have the capacity to hold all of that. And, you know, we've kind of all gone along with this. But it's almost like the blossoming now is for people to realize their inner gifts, and that we're all unique. We're each unique. We each bring something here. And we might have an area of specialty like medicine or education or finance, or, you know, we have these areas that we uniquely serve in that are true for us. But in the reclaiming, we create a space where it's not about a process and a system. It's about the service to each person's intuitive gifts being realized for the collective good of humanity. That's what I see over and over and over. And this feels like a massive service to helping that be realized.
Yes, and it just makes me so happy. It really does. I feel, and it feels like a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
Because it just won't be me who will be facilitating. It'll be members of this amazing community that has grown over the last 10 years, including you, Lizzie. Right? These amazing people. So how awesome is that? Like, what an abundance of service to people coming to that program.
Yeah.
And it's such an abundant model too. Makes me so happy. It makes me so happy when somebody that I've worked with goes and works with one of my clients. It makes me so happy. Right? So this is a beautiful symbiotic model.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing and realizing and witnessing the unfolding of that. And yeah, there's something here about abundance for all.
I really feel
it's not where our collective mindset is it? It's not where the common resonance is at all.
Nope. It's all, I need to keep it for me.
Yeah.
Right. It's unsafe. It's unsafe for me to share somebody else with you, because you might go to them.
Yeah.
And then what does that leave me? I mean, that's the default, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's based on lack. And yeah, that's not what I'm choosing. As I said, it just makes me, like today,
I've got tingly spine.
I love that. Because today, actually, it's kind of significant that we're talking about this today, because I started with, again, a returning client. I had my first session with him today, and I just knew that it would be really supportive for him to work with somebody in this community. And so I want for his program to include access to these people at no extra cost, right? So I pay a fee to this community of the community of experts. I pay a fee for them to work with, the person I'm working with. And that just makes me so happy. There's enough for everybody. You know, what's that expression? Money makes the world go round. It's been going on and on in my mind the last few weeks. It does.
Yeah. Well, there's something to that, right? Around money and connection. Like I discovered I think I mentioned it to you before, that money without connection is void of value.
Oh, what a statement. Say that one again.
Money without connection is void of value. Because when we really be with that, you know, it's the joy that money gives us, because
Yes.
we're able to experience something often with someone we love and cherish.
Yes.
But if we only had that experience on our own with no connection, I mean, imagine going to a restaurant and the bill is $500, but you're sitting at the table by yourself and the waiter dismisses you and everyone in the restaurant doesn't even see you. And what kind of experience would that be?
Yeah. Meaningless.
Yeah. Very, you know, then money has no value, does it? So
Well,
it's the true currency in a way.
it's not, and it's an interesting word that's coming to me, like the example that you just gave, like it's not a rich experience.
Mm. Lots of food for thought,
Yes.
lots to allow in is what I'm getting. And something arrived for a few minutes ago around, you know, if you're in a position in your life right now where things are not what you would love, you're suffering in some way, and the people around you are suffering in some way, that there's more for you than you possibly know or have allowed yourself to receive. And maybe you listening to this episode will inspire you to allow yourself to listen to that more that you so desire, and to not make it wrong, to not shame it, and to not dismiss it and bury it, but to allow it to be your calling card to a whole new world of possibility and making that your reality.
Can you feel that my heart is going off right now? Can you feel the energy? I've got shiny eyes. Oh my God. I feel like this is a very activating conversation for the listeners.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you loved this episode, we would really appreciate you sharing it and following the podcast. To reach out to Gisele, check her details in the show notes for her website info. And if you'd love to participate in Thrive, my upcoming 6-week immersion, also follow the show notes for more details and information on how to enroll. Thank you for listening.